Hello, Fiedelbogen here. To my fellow workers in the vineyard, worldwide, greetings. I will call today's talk, Once Again, Women Were Not Oppressed When They Couldn't Vote. Now, this talk expands upon certain ideas that were set forth in an earlier video. That video was gadfly material, and if you haven't noticed, I love to be a gadfly occasionally. The feminist horse needs all the gadflies it can get until it is, metaphorically, bitten to death. I repeat, metaphorically. We should always be clear about that, shouldn't we? Or if you prefer, you can metaphorically call this process death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, if the element of so-called hate speech is kept to a very, very low threshold, it becomes impossible to call it hate speech. Instead, you might call it get under their skin speech. It makes them dance. It makes them squirm like maggots. But there ain't diddly-doo-bop they can do about it. Or, at any rate, not without tipping their hand. The point is to apply social heat and pressure slowly. Call it the crockpot principle. What the hell are they going to do? Pass laws against get under their skin speech? No matter what they do, you can always stay just an inch outside of any boundary they set, and you will make your message perfectly clear while keeping out of range of anything retaliatory they might try to do to you. So you are always pushing the envelope a bit here, a bit there, drawing them further and further from the center of their world and deeper into the desert where you can ambush them. All right, as for my earlier video, a lot of people hated it, but there is no misogyny about it. I proposed an outrageous idea, a "you wouldn't dare say that" thesis, which indeed I dared to say. That much is true. And yes, I think it is a lively sport on occasion to play chicken with cultural speech taboos. But there is no misogyny in stating that women of the 19th century were not oppressed when they were denied the voting franchise. For what reason is it hateful to opine that somebody was not oppressed in situation X? For no reason. It does not by any means entail hate to say such a thing. And beyond that, the so-called oppression was never factual but only theoretical, by virtue of a theory concocted ex post facto and then retrojected onto history. To put that another way, the oppression was an ideological artifact of later times, crafted as a rhetorical weapon for those same times, but it never existed in a purely objective way at the time of the actual situation. And yet, we all know that the feminists love to bang on and on about feminism got women the vote, as if that were an act of stellar heroism on their part. To portray themselves in this way lies at the core of their female victimization narrative. In fact, it is one of their favorite items when they throw the talking point trick at you. And that's all it is, a talking point. Because, you see, getting women the vote is not feminism qua feminism. It is just, well, getting women the vote. Yes, feminism and getting women the vote are conceptually different items. They are detachable from each other. The abstract essence of feminism itself, namely female supremacism, does not inherently reside within the concrete project of getting women the vote. That particular project was only a landmark along feminism's road, and only a means to an end. But it was not the road per se, nor was it the end of the road. To see this in its proper light, we should never forget that plenty of women in olden times not only didn't give a hoot about gaining the franchise, but often actively opposed it. Furthermore, not all men opposed the franchise for women. Some did, and some didn't. So in the end, we are entitled to say that certain people, male and female both, supported women's suffrage, and that certain other people, likewise male and female both, did not. Accordingly, the notion that women of the 19th century were somehow oppressed because they couldn't vote is shown to be highly problematic. Well, so much for feminism's stellar heroism. Yes, it is entirely possible to have supported women's suffrage back in the day and yet not have been a feminist. The women's suffrage campaign was nowise dependent upon feminism's core agenda, and the incidental fact that many people identifiable as feminists supported that campaign does nothing to undermine the truth of this. Still, I grant you that it camouflages said truth, and feminism's propaganda mythos has capitalized on that effect. However, we must realize that feminism depended utterly on getting the vote for women. Since feminism is the project to increase the power of women, it was imperative to introduce female voters into the political algebra. The empowerment of women would necessarily be stymied at a certain level if this did not occur. And so feminism's advancement was vitally linked to the success of the women's suffrage movement. It was a necessary stage in feminism's historical trajectory. In the end, feminism acted the part of a self-serving parasite within the historical narrative of women's suffrage. And you may be a liberal who feels that women's suffrage was a noble cause, or you may be a conservative who feels otherwise. But either way, you can take certain intellectual steps and see the pragmatic need, in feminist terms, of promoting such a cause. Feminism had a need to promote this cause. Therefore, when you are verbally attacking feminism and somebody flings in your face the idea that feminism got women the vote, you needn't be impressed. Such a thing carries no force of argument. It is only an emotional manipulation trick, and the serpent hissing in the woodpile should be audible to you. Misogynist? Who, me? No, there's not a speck of misogyny about anything I've said here, because no hatred of women is stated or implied ever in any form. And if you feel otherwise, then you are frankly an emotionalistic, chicken shit little ninny. Now, if I, the present speaker, were to propose that the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution be repealed and that women be banned from the polling stations, then, in the present historical context, you might have a case that I had proposed an oppressive measure, and you would have a stronger case that I was misogynistic to float such an idea, but it would still be a weak case. But if such a measure were indeed carried through, then, assuming that women en masse had loudly opposed it, you might then plausibly argue, in that historical context, that women were oppressed. However, I, the present speaker, propose no such measure. Let that be officially noted and entered in the record. And let the feminists stop crowing that feminism delivered women from an oppression when it allegedly secured them the franchise. Feminism did not deliver women from that oppression. It created that oppression. Historiographically, ex post facto. Fiedelbogen. Out, 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 out.